this video, we are going to cover how to add a new recipe or formula. In this example, we'll be entering in whole wheat bread, including a sourdough starter. For this example, let's say that we sell this bread as loaves and as buns. This video was created using version 2.8.035 of FlexiBake. If you are using a different version of the program, there may be some variance from what is seen in this video. For further support, please click the FlexiBake logo found in the bottom left corner of our program to be brought to the support page. Now, to begin, click the New Recipe button located in the Inventory Center. The first step in this example will be to create a recipe for our starter, which we will create here. If your recipes have codes, then begin by entering your recipe code. Click in the text box below and enter the recipe name. To create a new category for this recipe, first click the category button, then click the new button, enter the category name, click OK to save, and OK again to return to the previous window. Since this is our starter, I will click the base recipe checkbox. This is because this recipe is one from which other recipes will be made. I'm now going to start adding the ingredients that are required to make the recipe. It is recommended to enter the ingredient quantities that are required to create the typical or maximum batch size, which is often determined by equipment capacity. Entering your maximum or typical batch size ensures accuracy when reporting costing and production on your recipes and products. Click the text box beside where it says raw material and start typing your first ingredient. Pressing F2 while in this box will bring up a full list of raw materials and recipes containing the letters entered. Double-click the required item. Then, press Tab on your keyboard to jump to the quantity field. The default unit of the ingredient will be automatically selected, though you can choose another unit by clicking on the drop-down and selecting from the list. Enter the quantity and click the Add button. The batch weight increases by the weight of each ingredient added. You can choose to display the recipe weight in pounds, pound ounces, or kilograms by selecting your preference from the Administration tab, through Preferences, in the General tab, and near the top of the window. You'll notice, as I start typing the name of the next ingredient, that the program is attempting to auto-complete it by searching the records for matching text. If the desired ingredient or recipe is displayed before you have finished typing, press the Tab key to move the cursor to the quantity field, enter the amount, and click the Add button. To save the information entered, click the OK button. Now I'm going to show you how to update ingredients already entered. First, I'm going to change the quantity of water required, and I'm also going to add an instruction that will appear alongside this ingredient on the printed recipe, which is referred to as a work order. To do this, I select the record by clicking on it, then change the quantity, enter the instruction, and this time click the Update button. If I want water to appear as the first ingredient on the recipe, I select the record by clicking on it, and then click on the up or down arrow to change the position. To add a blank line between two ingredients, select the ingredient that you want to appear below the blank line and then click on the Add Blank Line button. Then click on the OK button to save the changes. A batch waste factor has not been entered, and so the net weight is equal to the gross weight. If you decide to enter a waste factor, the net weight will be automatically updated to reflect this loss. As mentioned, a printed recipe is referred to as a work order. To enter details to be shown on your work order, click on the Production tab. Select a work order style from the drop-down list that works for your recipe and for your business. Recipe instructions can be added in the text box at the bottom of the screen. To print the recipe, click the Work Order button, enter the number of batches or the net weight required, and then click the OK button. The ingredients required to make the gross batch weight are displayed on the work order. The work order can be exported, printed, or emailed as required. To enter the labor required to make this recipe, click the Labor Cost Summary tab. Then, to create a new labor category, click the Category button, enter the type of labor required, their hourly rate, and click the Add button. Then, click Close to return to the previous window, and now select the labor category from the drop-down, the number of people required for this recipe, and the time it will take them, entered in either hours or minutes. Once entered, click the Add button and then the OK button to save the changes. You will see the cost summary below has been updated with the labor costs. To view the cost summary in more detail, you can click on either the Detailed or Summary costing reports. Now that our starter recipe has been created, we are ready to create our dough recipe. To do this, click the Close button and then the New Recipe button. And start with the recipe code and name. Enter the recipe category as this recipe will be used for both loaves and buns. This is also a base recipe. Check this box and move to the raw material field. First, enter your starter recipe. Type the name, and when it appears, click on the Add button. This will add a full batch of your starter, though you can update the quantity if required. Next, add the remaining ingredients to your dough recipe. I will quickly do this here. Again, click OK to save, and enter the Production tab to select a desired work order style and enter instructions. Once that is completed, enter the Labor Cost Summary tab and enter in the labor required, and then click OK to save and close to return to the inventory center. Now that we have created our dough, we are ready to create what are known as finished item recipes. In this instance, our finished item recipes will link to our dough recipe, but will be scaled out at the appropriate unit size. To begin, click the New Recipe button. When naming a finished item recipe, it is recommended to add an FI before the name to make it easier to link to products later in the process. You will also want to add the scaling unit into the recipe name for the same purpose. For example, I will add FI whole wheat loaf as my recipe name. Categorize this recipe and then move to the Formula tab. Here, we will link the dough that we just created. To do this, enter the recipe name. click Add to enter a full batch size. Click OK to save the changes. And now we want to scale this recipe. That is, enter the weight of each loaf or piece as it weighs in wet dough form. So for example, I'll say each loaf weighs 0.8 pounds. And FlexiBake automatically calculates the net yield of this recipe. Clicking in the net yield field will change the net yield to eaches to find out how many this recipe will produce. Other fields in reference to the batch weight are waste and cripple factors. Click OK to save the changes. Enter in the production instructions and labor required to scale and bake the bread, and click OK to save. To enter water loss to this recipe and ensure the nutrient breakdown reflects the water loss, click the Nutritional Analysis tab and enter either the weight after processing or add the water loss after processing in either weight or percent. FlexiBake will automatically do the calculations for you based on the weight or percent entered. Click OK to save the changes. We will now cover how easy it is to create a different sell-by unit. To create whole wheat buns, for example, first click Close to return to the Inventory Center. Click Maintain Recipes. Highlight our FI whole wheat loaf recipe by clicking on it, and click Clone found at the bottom of the screen. Enter the recipe code and name as desired. So in this instance, I will rename as FI whole wheat buns. Enter the changes to the scaling weight. So in my instance, I will update to 0.3 pounds, which auto-updates the net yield. Ensure to change production, costing, and water loss details as required, and then press OK to save the new record. If I press Close to return to the Maintain Recipes window, you will see I now have my FI recipes for both whole wheat loaves and buns. These recipes are now ready to be linked to products, which will be shown in subsequent training videos. This concludes this training video. Thanks for watching.